The audio tapes that President Biden did not want the public to hear have now been released. The recordings were of Biden working on his 2017 memoir with biographer Mark Zwanitzer. Some parts of the tapes are redacted, meaning omitted because of potentially sensitive or confidential information. But here are parts that were not redacted.
So this was early on in '09. I just found all the classified stuff downstairs. I wrote the president a handwritten 40-page memorandum arguing against deploying additional troops to to Afghanistan, on the grounds that it wouldn't matter. What was I going to ask you? Something else. Oh gosh. I can't think what it is. Thanks. Some of this may be classified, so be careful with it. I'm not sure. It's not more classified. I have extensive notes over this period of time.
You actually have those too.
Yeah, now there's a lot of other notes too, but I mean, this is they didn't even know I have this. Because some of the stuff I'm not, going.
After a 2-year court battle, these tapes consisting of at least 70 hours of audio recordings were released to the Oversight Project and House Judiciary Committee. When investigating Biden back in 2023 and 2024, former special counsel Robert Hur listened to these tapes. He also interviewed the then sitting president. Hur then elected not to prosecute Biden for mishandling classified material. In February of 2024, Hur wrote in his report that, in his opinion, a jury would view Biden as a, quote, sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory, end quote. And for that reason, it was Hur's prosecutorial discretion not to prosecute the former president. Biden has not commented on the release of these tapes, but last week, a spokesperson said, quote, President Biden's conversations for a book a decade ago that discussed his late son are private and were provided to the Department of Justice on the express condition they stayed that way. Reversing course and making them public is just the latest example of this administration weaponizing the Department of Justice for political retribution, end quote. Meanwhile, another nemesis of President Trump is back in the news. Former FBI Director James Comey wants his federal charges thrown out. Comey is charged with knowingly and willfully making a threat to the president. Comey is also charged with transmitting a threat in interstate commerce. Last year, Comey posted this photo of seashells, which said 8647. The prosecutors say the term 86 means to kill someone, and 47 refers to President Trump as the 47th president. Comey's legal team says the government cannot prove that the photo was a true threat. In a court filing, Comey's lawyers say, quote, even if 8647 could implausibly be read to suggest violence, a reasonable observer would still understand Mr. Comey's post as mere political hyperbole and not a true threat. The Supreme Court has rejected prosecutions based on speech far more directly threatening than Mr. Comey's seashells post here, end quote. Back in April, when these charges were announced, President Trump said this about Comey's post.
If anybody knows anything about crime, they know 86. You know what 86? It's a mob term for kill him.
Last year, Comey was indicted for a false statement to Congress. Those charges were dismissed after a judge said the prosecutor on that case was improperly appointed. Former federal prosecutor Joe Moreno joins me. Nice to see you, Joe.
Greta.
I don't know where to start on these audio tapes. In 2017, he says on the tapes, they don't know I have them, meaning classified documents. 2017.
Weeks after leaving office as vice president, right? I think many people will focus on the mental acuity angle here, right? That we get to finally hear these tapes that the Biden folks tried so hard not to make public.
Well, let me just start the mental acuity. He goes, gosh, pause, I can't think of it, which is something I might do. Maybe I have a mental acuity problem, but of course we're hypersensitive with him. I did notice it. I paid attention.
But you weren't running for president. Or,
I'm not
right,
running for president. Not
serving
soon,
as president.
not this year.
But I think for those of us who are watching the legal case so closely, what just shreds the administration's credibility back then was that the Biden folks were so adamant that when they discovered these caches of documents in his office and in his home, right? In 2022, they immediately called the FBI and the National Archives, and they did the right thing, right? They were good guys, as opposed to that awful Donald Trump, right?
Well, they didn't. They did not do that.
Now
they
we
did
know
not
that
do that.
6 years earlier, they knew that they had these
that was a
materials
lie.
and
That was a
sat on
lie.
them.
That was a lie.
How egregious. And for them to now stomp their feet and say it's the Trump Justice Department that's weaponizing, we're just getting out the truth here that they sat on for so long.
Not only that, is that they watched with glee as Trump was being indicted for it, with glee and praising Jack Smith, knowing that in 2017, Biden's saying, I mean, Biden knew it at least, he's saying it to his ghostwriter in 2017, I've got these documents, and they don't know I have them, which usually is another way to say that I know I have them.
You're the chief executive responsible for enforcing the laws of the United States, and shamelessly sick your pitbull Jack Smith on a former president, while you know darn well you're sitting on a cache of documents for years and years. Or even worse, maybe he didn't know. Maybe he actually didn't realize what he had done. Either way, it's really bad.
Well, I'll tell you another bad one. Is lawyers now are saying, like, how, basically, how can you do this about a guy talking about writing a book about his son? It wasn't about his son. He's talking about classified documents. Even their latest, the spokesperson's statement was stupid. I mean, like I said, I don't know where to start. It's so bad.
I don't want to comment on the deceased son, other than the fact that people are very opportunistic when they use certain references when it means covering their own reputations.
But to say that, but everybody's. I mean, everyone in this town is guilty of so much hypocrisy. I get it. I live here, and I see it every single day. But at least try not to be so obvious about it.
Just, I mean, again, so shameless. So you mean? I remember we're sitting here after they found out about this Biden documents. We said there's no way they could possibly still prosecute Donald Trump, right, for the documents found in Mar-a-Lago. And sure enough, 6 months later, Jack Smith indicts Trump, and they were just absolutely happy to let that run its course.
But even Biden, as he's sitting here saying that we turned over what was in our garage next to the Corvette. I don't know when that was. And it was found in the office building downtown, which, they said was a locked closet. You can use a credit card to open these locked closets in office buildings. We all know that. But the idea that in 2017, he says, they don't know I have them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just, a first lieutenant in the military, a most junior lawyer in the government with a security clearance knows you don't do this stuff. But the president does it, doesn't seem to care.
Anyway, Joe Moreno, thank you.
Thanks.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.